said he's just a friend.
Welcome back, everyone, to a brand new edition of Getting Color right here on the BigVitoBrand.com. And I am Virtue, sitting in my throne in a different location at my palace this evening with Big Vito LaGrasso down there in Florida in his studio. What's up, my man?
How are you doing, Virtue? It's the BIGV from the LOG coming to you live, baby, live from Florida via Cleveland, via Florida. We got that kind of set up here. Hey, Virtue, I actually like the new back. I actually like you sitting like that. It looks very professional and very studious. All you need is a little picture in the background, and I think you'd be set.
That's a work in progress. I might even put some banners up. So I'm kind of experimenting around here. My condo, I have a loft here. I could turn my loft into a great studio. I just got to figure out where I want it to be. So we'll see.
Well, being that you are a man of multitasking, it's not a bad idea to set up two remotes in your home. This way you could do separate shows from different locations.
Yep. That's a good idea.
Hey, that's why we're here.
Those are the only kind of ideas you have, right? The good ones?
The good ones. They're good ideas, right?
Dude, are you ready to get on with this show with some of these topics? Because I'm always curious every week when we.
I know you've been anxious. We got a lot of wrestling to cover, guys. This is going to be a good show. Guys, keep with us, and Virtue, take it away.
All right, I want to know. I don't know if you saw it. I know you catch clips on the internet, but the Blood and Guts match happened on Dynamite last Wednesday. It's like a War Games match, and it was MJF's team, the Pinnacle, versus Chris Jericho's team, the Inner Circle. A lot of spots, Vito. They bled. It came down to Jericho and MJF at the top of the cage at the end of the match, and here was my problem with the finish. I don't mind the Pinnacle winning, okay? Right? You got to try to get the younger guys over. MJF is a top heel. I get it. The way the match ended, MJF threatened to throw Jericho off the cage unless his crew surrendered. And the Inner Circle guys looking up from the bottom surrendered. So MJF and the Pinnacle won. Okay. Jericho got tossed over anyway. Right? And there was obviously a padding there. I just want to know your thoughts because it's like, I expected, and I know these guys put their bodies on the line, but I expected a little bit more for this. There's something that wasn't quite fulfilling to me. And the camera work in AEW sucks because they zoomed in on Jericho once he hit the crash pad, and he opened his one eye and looked up real quick and did a nod. You knew he was telling someone he was okay. Not Jericho's fault, camera work's fault. Please elaborate. Even if you didn't see it, I just painted that picture for you. Please elaborate on AEW's version of War Games.
All right. I got the whole scoop, and I want to say this. Respect to the guys in AEW for doing this type of match. Okay? Let's start off with that. Now, let's talk about the very first picture I saw was Sammy Guevara with a big cut on his arm, right? With these butterfly stitches. Now, in all the years I have done hardcore wrestling, I have never scarred or opened my body the way these guys today open and scar their body. Hardcore wrestling is an art form and a craft. It is not a who can bleed the most, who has the most scar wounds. It's supposed to be done safely. It's supposed to be done correctly. And you have to practice at your craft. When we had ECW and you had all the blood and guts you could make, I don't remember anybody getting this banged up or doing anything like that. And I wrestled with Balls, Axel, and New Jack. And those guys were the kingpins of that kind of style wrestling back then, because that's what they did. And you notice none of the Baldies and none of those guys ever got this hurt, with the exception of Balls Mahoney hitting PN News in the face and breaking his nose with the chair by accident one time. But other than that, for everything that we did and all the blood and all that, you never did it. Now, the blade jobs that came out on this show, again, guys, learn your craft. When it's that obvious and you're just whipping out your blade and you're cutting yourself and you're not accomplishing, you're not entertaining the imagination of the fan to be in there and get the realism of the sport. It's a craft. Okay.
Any thoughts on
No,
MJF's team winning?
I'm getting to it. This is good. I'm dissecting this to the end, right?
I like it.
The finish where it was going to be, I'm going to throw you off. That concept I get. But him getting thrown off into a makeshift pile, supposedly of steel, and it was cardboard, and it was a crash mat. That's the part I have the hardest problem with. You mean to tell me you couldn't come up with a better scheme and a better ending than to have that? I was shocked to death. I'm not talking about angles of camera. When I see cardboard on top of a crash pad, that is so cheap and so undone. That's because they don't have anybody there who knows how to do this properly. Take the Kenny Omega Moxley match with the exploding ring.
Yep.
Right? Now, the aftermath of MJF throwing him off after making the team beg. Why didn't the Jericho team race up there and throw him off as retaliation? He made them all look like a bunch of puss bags. That's not what you wanted. You wanted MJF to be the heel. You wanted him to throw him off the thing. But the payback and retaliation for the Jericho crew was to race up there and save their boy and have both of them laid out. MJF would have went over, but he would have been laying next to Jericho, and what better finish for both of them to be laying there. One guy went over, one guy did the job, and I said this in the beginning when this started. Did I or did I not? This is the Jericho babyface turn. This is going to be MJF coming out as a heel and this kid going over. I called this months ago.
You did.
That is my take on this, guys.
The only thing, obviously, less spots. This was so everybody get your shit in. You could just tell. I wouldn't have had a problem with at the finish is if MJF just threw Jericho over and he landed. Now, granted, the crash pad sucked. The cardboard with the fake steel look sucked. Right. But just say the philosophy of Jericho crashing down, then the Inner Circle rushed over to him, and then they called the match. They said, we're done, because they were concerned about Jericho. The fact that they gave up and then he still got thrown over anyway, come on. But I love your points, Vito.
But hey, the WWE made comments on this, and I noticed that Triple H commented, and I know some others commented, and they thought it set wrestling back 30 years.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. I would like to hear the people's feedback on your thoughts on it, because it's important that you guys give us feedback, okay? Because if it set wrestling back 30 years, that means you do go back to when ECW was around. And that says a lot. And then you had WCW, right? And in both places. And then you have the Caribbean, where hardcore really was is a daily over there, where they bleed every match. Something to think about, wrestling history. Go back and look at it. We want to hear your comments. But first, Goomba sauce.
Yum.
The sauce of champions. It's the sauce in the LaGrasso household. Very good. Everybody get it. Go to Saucefella on Twitter and tweet that mofo. And what do you got there? You got a new shirt?
Cousin Eddie, Christmas Vacation, Shitter's
Cousin
Full.
Eddie. I noticed that you have been doing a lot of old school movie watching. What is with this? Is this something? Is this your hobby?
Because that's when a lot of the movies were really good, Vito. I mean, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so those movies just like resonate with me at another level, and I would rather rewatch them being older, reflecting back onto those times in my life than some of this garbage we get today.
I get you, man. All right, what's the next topic for that?
Next
That was a
topic.
good segment. A very good segment. Go ahead.
Next topic, Vito. She's coming back to WWE. There was vignettes that began on Raw. The red hair, pink haired, whatever she is now, the voluptuous Eva Marie. They're calling it Evolution. It's weird because I thought they did that with Evolution at one point.
Right.
Now, from what I understand, she was signed late last year. They just kept her off TV, probably plotting and scheming. A lot of people are pissed because, well, you didn't have anything to do for the Iconics and Chelsea Green and Mickey James, and you let them go, but now you're going to shove Eva Marie down our throats. Vito, look, she looks a certain way. Sex still sells. I want to see if she's learned anything between the four ropes, right? I don't know that. These fans don't know that. What do you think? Because I'm a firm believer, sex appeal, Vito, still sells.
I gotta tell you, I don't have a problem with her coming back and signing with the WWE. Now, the first time around, she's very inexperienced. She was new to wrestling. She was just, but she had the look. Now, a couple years later, she still has that sexy look, that devil look. She could be a devil worshiper in some devil land. You know what I mean? She's got a sexy allure about her. And the fact that people are talking about her and the people are hot, they're doing the right thing because what are you talking about? You're talking about Eva Marie coming back. So they're doing it. Now, does this mean she has to wrestle? No. You want to know where I could see her going?
Where's that?
Roman Reigns.
Interesting. Now, I don't know, how sometimes when the vignettes are on Raw, so I'm assuming she's going to debut on Raw initially, but I like where you're going with that. Elaborate.
I could see her not in a sex, not in a sleeping with. I can see her as a lady enforcer for Roman Reigns. Sexy, silent, one move, one shot. What is the best thing a manager or a valet do? What is their one job? You do one thing. That's all. And that's how you get the most attention.
Sensational Sherry was with the Macho King, and it was awesome.
Right.
So I like that. We'll see. But guess what? She's back, and every week we're probably going to get several weeks of vignettes, and then she'll show up. And Vito, we will see what happens, and I'm sure we will rediscuss in the future.
I want to see the feedback on this segment, guys, because you know what? A lot of times we don't get the feedback. Press the like button, subscribe to Getting Color, get with it, get with us, send Noel messages, send Virtue messages, send me messages. I want to hear what you have to say because my outlook and Virtue's outlook, are two different points sometimes, but I'm giving you the experience. He giving you of the knowledge of today, right? So why don't you get back with us, guys, and get into this and join us and give us some things, okay? Make sure to click the subscribe below and get with us. Go.
And I'm very interactive on Twitter at NoDQ_Virtue. And Vito's over there as well at the Big Vito Brand on Twitter. Okay, Vito. So Daniel Bryan's gone now. We talked about that last week. We'll see what happens if he ends up coming back to WWE. But enjoy time with your family. But you know what a great replacement on SmackDown for his spot was? Jimmy Uso's finally back. Now, I know it's not that same spot, but Jimmy Uso's back, and it adds another dynamic to the Roman Empire, the head of the table, because you have Roman Reigns, the champion, Jey Uso, who we saw how that all played out, and you have Paul Heyman kind of orchestrating it. Jimmy comes back. Jey and Roman think He's right with them. It appears that way initially. Then there's a little pullback. Now it's does he really want to acknowledge Roman? And in the long run, it'll probably happen, but we're going to get some more story out of it. We can get Jay versus Jimmy. We could get Roman versus Jimmy until he finally succumbs to acknowledging Reigns. Dude, I said on No DQ, I think the Samoan family dynasty stuff that they're doing right now is absolute gold, the best thing in wrestling. And you know why I say that, Vito? Because it gives us the hope for one day to see The Rock come back and work with his cousin, Roman Reigns. Take it away on Jimmy Uso returning.
I think this concept and what they're doing is worthwhile because Paul Heyman is involved in it. Paul Heyman is probably the mastermind of it. He has a say, just like he did with Brock Lesnar, and they're being very careful about the presentation of Roman Reigns to the public because that is the only viable mega superstar that WWE has today. The only one. They have to protect it.
Now, Vito, I want to cut you off real quick here. And to that point, I did some research, right? I'm looking at SmackDown, which is the highest rated wrestling show on TV today. I'm not comparing to the past. We know with streaming, cable numbers are not what they used to be. But remember when Roman left and it did not participate at WrestleMania last year? He was gone for pretty much the whole spring and summer. For 6 or 7 weeks, SmackDown dipped under 2 million viewers on Fox. He came back at SummerSlam. Ever since, SmackDown has only been under 2 million one time at 1.99 early February this year. I'm not saying he's a Rock or an Austin or a Cena, but he stopped the bleeding and got them up to like 2.1, 2.2 million. That is a fact proven by the ratings chart. So I wanted to throw that out there.
So we do know that he moves the needle in an economy that the needle is not moving. So you bring up, Daniel Bryan. Now, Daniel Bryan has been sitting patiently, has done his job, has gotten paid, done everything possible to get out of this contract. He is free to go. Now, if Daniel Bryan comes back to the WWE, all the bitching, moaning, complaining, everything that he went through means absolutely nothing. You've made millions. You're well off. You don't really need to wrestle anymore. You wanted to go back to the indie scene. You wanted to go to Japan. You wanted to do all these things. You wanted to wrestle with your boys. I don't expect to see him back in a WWE ring for at least 3 or 4 years. Don't be a sellout, Daniel Bryan. Go live your wrestling dream. Be careful. Don't be reckless. But go do your thing, man. Congratulations on your release. You finally got what you wanted. You parted ways correctly. You did business the right way. Now go make somebody's company. Go be elite somewhere. Because you only got a few years left.
There you go. You heard it right there from Big Vito. Hey, we're going to kind of continue this into the main event and still talk about Roman. But who his opponents should be going into SummerSlam. Right now, it looks like we're going to get Cesaro finally into a main event run. Now, Vito, I firmly believe they're not taking the Universal title off Reigns anytime soon. I believe that they'll even let him carry it longer than CM Punk had the WWE title. Nobody's ever going to do what Bruno did, right? That was years of a title reign. But is Cesaro good? Is this a good spot for Cesaro? Get fans' hopes up. Have a match where there's a lot of close calls. And ultimately, what do you think it leads to for Roman for the big feud at SummerSlam? I don't think Cesaro is going to get stretched to SummerSlam. I think he's the filler beforehand. Is it Rollins? Are we going to see someone return? Roman's the big dog, head of the table. We got to talk about who that contender is going to be for the next big show. What do you think?
Guys, all due respect, and we always very respectful here, right? Cesaro is a fill-in match. They're going to take him off the pile. They're going to use him. He hasn't had a championship match, in a very long time. It's not that he's not a capable wrestler. It's not that he's not able to. It's just that he doesn't have the it factor to be world champion. That's basically the bottom line. So they need a filler. They need somebody to put in there that will give a good match. This is a one-off, okay? So the one-off is Cesaro, Roman Reigns. Now, after Cesaro, you just asked a great question. Who is next?
Yep, SummerSlam worthy because they treat that like the second WrestleMania, right?
Guys, if you look at the main roster, they don't have anybody to put there. They don't have it. It's a non-factor. Now, if they go outside the box and they bring Brock Lesnar back, now you got something.
I feel that's a possibility. I do. A really good one.
Brock, look for in the next weeks a little dissension or a little evil eye between Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns. Just the mannerisms, guys. I'm talking real mannerisms and what you could see. If you really got an eye for wrestling, guys, because if you could see Brock coming through and Heyman doing the fuck job, and then Jimmy and Jay running to Roman's rescue as Paul Heyman and Brock are walking up the aisle with the championship belt, now you have Jay and Jimmy and Roman to fight Brock Lesnar. You have 3 different title matches for 3 different pay-per-views. And there you have it.
Here's what I think. I think Brock's a very good possibility. And I think SummerSlam's going to be at a place that has fans like WrestleMania did. But I think Brock comes back and Heyman stays where he's at least for a while. And Brock, I don't know if it'll work, but he's the baby face on his own. Now, I know when he went to UFC the first run, he talked. He couldn't really cut good promos when he was in WWE early on, back in the early 2000s. When he was first in UFC, he had like a Mike Tyson swagger when he talked. Something, it was just like, wow, you're not too bad if you don't have restrictions. So I'm interested to see that. I think it could be Brock by himself versus as a babyface versus Roman and company. But that's just what I think. We'll see.
We'll see, guys. There's not too many options. There's very limited, availability of what they could put out there. Plus, they have all the B team stuff. So, I mean, guys, you got to pick and choose what you're going to do. They're not going to take anybody from NXT to challenge for the title. That is unrealistic.
No, they got to develop. They got to develop them big time.
I mean, guys.
Seth Rollins, right? They'll do that as a cheap way out, maybe, but come on.
Seth Rollins has been used and reused and reused. They're not going to stick Randy Orton in there. They're not going to stick Rollins in there. They're not going to stick anybody else.
What about Big E?
Not right. I don't see Big E as he's a great tag. I always said this. You could be a great wrestler. But as a singles wrestler, you just don't have the it factor. But as a tag team, as part of a team with wingmen, he is that guy. He's not the singles.
Yeah.
He's not the it factor, guys. It's a special thing that you know and see when you look at it, okay? But let's take it at that. Surprise, surprise. You never know. Hey, maybe Chris Jericho, after he got thrown off the table, he had enough, and he'll come back to WWE. What better way to come back than to challenge Roman Reigns as a babyface in a holy shit moment?
There you go.
And please nobody say CM Punk, because that card has been played out. Nobody wants to see it. It's drawn out. It's washed out. And guys,
I disagree with you there. Now, when you say nobody, there's the internet fans.
The fanboys.
They would die. They would die for that. But
right.
Yeah.
But money wise and viewer wise, it's not going to move the needle. It's not going to do anything great. I don't see it.
Yep. They got to build new stars. All right, Vito, that's it. Unless you want to add anything to what's on Big Vito's mind before we close this thing up.
All right. No, you want to know, guys? I think we covered everything. Everything on my mind was in a positive way about wrestling today. I hope you watched this. Subscribe to the channel. Go to Goomba Sauce at Saucefella. Virtue, close it out. We are going to go.
So follow Vito on Twitter at the Big Vito Brand. Follow me at NoDQ_Virtue. Check out the Patreon where we do Men of Business, MOB. That is patreon.com/the Big Vito Brand. But most importantly, thebigvitobrand.com is where it's at. This has been Getting Color for Big Vito. I am Virtue. See you next time.
Check out Big Vito and Virtue live with Getting Color every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, only on twitch.tv/the Big Vito Brand.
Riddle deep.
Yeah. I feel like Big Vito. Yeah, I feel like Big Vito. Yeah, feel like Big Vito. Yeah. I said, I'm up next like I got the call from Vito. We not some average Joes, stay escaping from Leos. So call me Big Vito, I got a kick like a shotty. And like Ciroc, you're taking hard shots to the body. They had you in a dress, but you were still styling. And if they talk crap, hit them with the code of silence. Told these haters get off me, your style stays sloppy. Tricking out the rides, I got an iced out jalopy. Cut you off no matter how thin, like salami. So many shots headed towards me, it gotta be a Tommy. Speaking of mafia things, I call it Donnie. So you about to go to sleep, call me Hideo with Tommy. With the GTS, I bet you haven't seen me yet, you seeing stars. I smoked you like a Vito cigar. You're not messing with the squad, especially on the pod. It's no hold bars like this, no DQ.com.